What's really difficult about my work is that frequently it's not visible. So none of the work that I did at Roughborough can actually be seen. So that's why it's so great to be talking tonight. I'm going to be talking about the unseen side of conservation. I'm going to be talking about drapes. And I'm also going to be talking about paintings. Great. Okay, so 1746, Rufus Chetwood, in this very riveting memoir, a tour through Ireland in several entertaining letters, describes how artificers from most parts of Europe were engaged, oh, that's your job, were engaged in this great work. So yeah, artificers from most parts of Europe were engaged in this great work of building and designing Roughborough House. Now, similar to Rufus, I also have a, I would like and have a kind of weakness for Europeans and for artifice. And I'm going to be talking a lot about artifice this evening. Why? Well, because conservation, it is artifice. I mean, most restoration work, is a little bit of a fraud. Because what conservation and restoration is, it's pretending that the past has never stopped. I am a conservator because I do not like change. And I prefer the past to the present. Okay, so to fix something, to be fixed, that can mean a couple of things. That can mean to repair something. It can mean, to repair something, to be repaired. It can also mean to neuter a male dog, or it can mean to make things stay the same so that they are constant. Objects pretend to be fixed, but they are not. They move a lot, and in my experience, they break most of the time. Paintings move a lot, and the paintings in Roughborough House move more than most. So they've moved between museums, like from the National Gallery we were talking about. They've also moved between the hands of criminals, like the hands of Rose Dugdale in 1975, apparently for the good of the IRA, or in 1986, this painting of a monk disappeared into the hands of Martin the General Cahill and then reappeared under a floral couch in a flat in London. So getting paintings to stay still and not change is really, really difficult. Now the General, he also really didn't like movement or change, which is why he famously nailed a person to the floor. That was just to get him to stay still. And that man definitely did not move. He did not move. After that, goodbye.
Meanwhile, in nothing, a capacity to exist. And that is where this universe came from. Now fast forward a few billion years,
where I came across an object.
This object is very special. I found it in the sand. What you might think, you know what it is, right? It looks like what could be a 50-year-old gas regulator. And it is. But for me, this opened a sort of a knowledge in my mind of how to look at a door in a different way. Where is the door of this room? You must see it. There it is there. But the door that I see is somewhere between that door. Now, we all know doors. And fiction has sort of done something, has sort of figured out how doors are. Imagine Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole and finding herself in Wonderland. And like, if she had walked down that rabbit hole, she wouldn't have found herself in Wonderland. She had to tumble down the exact same way. Or maybe the wardrobe that leads to the lamppost in Narnia. Or the doorway that the Maitlands draw on the brick wall to get into the afterlife in Beetlejuice. These are all doors that are specially made, specially sort of travelled into, that sort of gets them there. The important thing also to know, they have sort of, this way they have grasped a little bit on how a door works, and it's because it's real, you know? Doors are real. I know doors. And the space, it's also important to know that the space on either side of a door must match the center of the door. And then the rest can do what they want on either side.
Now we can show you some of our footage of mirror work. This stuff is very groundbreaking, so it's, yeah.
Yes.
Great. It's gonna be great. That's a mirror.
That's a window.
Yeah.
You really felt we connected with this mirror.
Yeah. Oh, that is the one, yeah. So we're both in that one.
We walked by,
That was a really difficult one. That took us a while to figure out that wasn't what we were So this is actually particularly difficult, okay, because, so, I don't know if you can see that, but in that mirror is actually visible a painting of Sir Alfred Bite, okay? Sir Alfred Bite and all of his collection of paintings, and his nephew moved into Roughborough House in the 1950s?
yes, I do.
Yeah.
Now, paintings and mirrors often get confused.
Yes, that's true. Now, I actually learned the conservation trade from Winnie, who is also my grandmother. Now, my grandmother's basement is full of objects that she is conserving in many different ways. And in her pantry, in biscuit tins, she has tools on hand for any sort of job. So we're talking foggy crystal doorknobs, screws, washers, those kind of brassy lion heads with like proud rings in their mouths, rub and buff, which is like this kind of waxy varnish that miraculously turns most things into gold. But the real fixer for any job is pantyhose. Now pantyhose.
Imagine the universe is a bunch of different materials, all sort of interwoven together with different strings, and each bit of the strings just sewn in through just lots of strings. And imagine the strings are doors. No, the strings are, the material is fabric of the universe, it's space. And the strings are doors. No, they're not doors, they're the spaces. The strings aren't the doors, it's the space between the strings and the material that's the doors. So you can get from one part of a distant piece of fabric to another part very quickly. You know, you wouldn't have to walk this entire distance. You see, but with string, you just go in between that little hole and you find yourself in another part of the body very, very quickly. Now, one place that I've seen that is the epicenter of all springs, doors, is
I must love being nothing. I must love my nothingness. How horrible it would be if I were something. I must love with that part of my soul which is on the other side of the curtain.
now. What we think we might do is try out, sort of reenact this disappearing act, and we've never done this before, but I think it can work. It's important to know that a disappearing act like this, it'll be so fast that the audience will actually forget that the participant even existed after the disappearance. Which is, so, without further ado, a disappearing act.